not disrespected because you're weak. You're disrespected because people already know what you'll do next. They know how you'll react, what you'll tolerate, when you'll forgive, and when you'll stay silent. And once a human being becomes readable, they become usable. Today, we solve one problem: why being predictable silently destroys your authority, and how to reclaim psychological power without becoming cruel. Predictability is not a flaw of character. It is a flaw of perception. It begins quietly, disguised as reliability, sincerity, and emotional openness. At first, it even feels virtuous. You answer messages quickly. You react exactly as expected. You forgive when forgiveness is anticipated. You explain yourself when questioned. Over time, however, something subtle changes in how people relate to you. Their tone shifts. Their patience shortens. Their behavior grows careless. This is the invisible moment when respect starts to erode, not because you have done something wrong, but because you have become fully readable. Psychological tension is the silent force that keeps human interactions alive. It is the space between what is known and what is uncertain. When tension exists, people pay attention. When tension disappears, attention dissolves into habit. The human mind does not remain alert around what it has already mapped. Once your reactions are known, once your limits are familiar, once your values are predictable, others stop engaging with you as a presence and start managing you as a pattern. Respect is not built on comfort. Comfort breeds carelessness. When people feel comfortable around you, they relax their awareness. They speak without filtering. They test boundaries without fear. They assume forgiveness before it is given. This is why those who are endlessly understanding are rarely protected, and those who are always available are often taken for granted. The absence of tension signals safety, and safety, in social hierarchies, invites dominance. Human beings instinctively calibrate their behavior based on resistance. When resistance is absent, pressure increases. Predictable individuals unintentionally remove resistance from their interactions. Their emotional responses are automatic rather than deliberate. Their moral positions are announced rather than guarded. Their displeasure is visible long before consequences arrive. In doing so, they eliminate the psychological friction that forces others to pause and reconsider their actions. Consider how differently people behave around someone whose reactions are uncertain. Words are chosen more carefully. Assumptions are restrained. Even disrespect hesitates before emerging. This hesitation is not fear in its crude form, but awareness. Awareness is a foundation of respect. It keeps others mentally engaged with you rather than casually dismissive. Predictability kills this awareness by answering questions before they are asked. When your behavior follows a consistent emotional script, people stop responding to you as an individual and start responding to the script itself. They know when you will be patient. They know when you will protest but comply anyway. They know when your anger is temporary and harmless. This knowledge grants them psychological leverage. They no longer interact with you in real time. They interact with a pre-recorded version of you stored in their mind. Predictability also collapses mystery, and mystery is not manipulation. It is distance. Distance creates gravity. Without distance, familiarity becomes intrusion. People feel entitled to your time, your explanations, your emotional labor. They interrupt you. They override you. They speak over you, not because they consciously disrespect you, but because nothing in your presence demands restraint. Tension does not mean conflict. It means restraint without explanation. It means pauses where reactions are expected. It means allowing silence to replace reassurance. Predictable individuals rush to resolve discomfort. They clarify too soon. They soften consequences too quickly. They fear being misunderstood more than being undervalued. In doing so, they teach others that discomfort around them will always be relieved, never endured. Respect grows when others sense that access to you is conditional, not guaranteed. When your approval is not automatic, it becomes meaningful. When your forgiveness is not scheduled, it becomes valuable. When your reactions are measured rather than impulsive, they carry weight. Psychological tension emerges not from unpredictability for its own sake, but from self-command. People do not know what you will do because you decide deliberately, not reflexively. The tragedy of predictability is that it feels like moral superiority while functioning as social vulnerability. You appear calm, reasonable, and transparent, yet internally you are being mapped, measured, and adjusted around. Others learn how far they can go without consequence. Each successful overstep reinforces a belief that you are safe to disrespect, not openly, but incrementally, through small dismissals that accumulate into diminished standing. Respect collapses not with confrontation, but with familiarity unguarded by boundaries. When psychological tension disappears, interaction loses its sharpness. Words lose their weight. Presence loses its authority. You are no longer encountered, only anticipated. And once you are anticipated, you are no longer experienced as a force, but as a certainty, something that can be accounted for, worked around, and quietly diminished without resistance. The human mind is not designed to honor what it understands completely. Familiarity does not create reverence. It creates compression. Once something is known, it is mentally reduced, categorized, and placed into a manageable space. This is not cruelty, but cognition. The brain is an economy of attention, and it does not waste energy on what no longer surprises it. When a person becomes fully anticipated, their psychological weight diminishes, regardless of their intelligence, morality, or effort. Control begins with prediction. To predict a person is to simulate them internally, to run their behavior in advance without their presence. When others can predict you, they no longer need to engage with you fully. They decide how you will respond before you speak. They interrupt before you finish. They cross lines already knowing the outcome. This silent simulation strips your presence of immediacy and turns you into a known variable rather than a living force. The devaluation is subtle. It does not appear as open hostility. It appears as reduced attentiveness, casual dismissal, and delayed responses. People feel less urgency around those they can control psychologically. When your reactions are guaranteed, others take risks with you they would never take with someone unpredictable. This is not because they are braver, but because the perceived cost is low. Control does not require authority. It requires familiarity. People often believe they are being disrespected because they lack status or power, when in reality they lack capacity. Their inner world is too visible. Their motives are too legible. Their emotional thresholds are too well known. When this happens, others do not need to challenge you to dominate you. They simply adjust around you, using what they know. The mind respects resistance, not transparency. Resistance creates uncertainty, and uncertainty keeps the mind elate. When something resists prediction, it occupies mental space. When it does not, it fades into the background. Predictable individuals are often present physically but absent psychologically. Others feel free to multitask during conversations, to half-listen, to override their opinions, because nothing unexpected is anticipated from them. There is also a moral illusion at play. Many people believe that being open, consistent, and understandable makes them trustworthy and therefore respected. Trust and respect, however, are not identical. Trust invites closeness. Respect enforces distance. When distance collapses entirely, control emerges. People feel entitled to question you, to advise you, to correct you, because they believe they already know who you are. Anticipation also neutralizes consequence. When others know you will explain rather than withdraw, forgive rather than retaliate, tolerate rather than enforce boundaries, they act accordingly. Their behavior is shaped not by your stated values, but by your predictable responses. Over time, this conditions others to treat you as someone whose presence can be managed without cost. Control thrives where emotional responses are visible. When your disappointment is obvious, people learn how much they can hurt you without repercussion. When your anger is loud but short-lived, it loses deterrent power. When your kindness is unconditional, it ceases to be valued. The human mind does not cherish what it does not fear losing. This is why individuals who are calm but unreadable often command more respect than those who are expressive and sincere. Their restraint forces others to fill the silence with assumptions. Their pauses create uncertainty. Their reactions, delayed and selective, interrupt the internal simulation others rely on. Without a clear script to follow, control weakens. Devaluation is not always intentional. Most people do not wake up deciding to disrespect someone. They simply respond to psychological cues. When a person feels controllable, they are treated as such. When a person feels unpredictable, they are approached with caution. Caution is not hostility, it is acknowledgement of weight. The tragedy is that predictability often increases as a response to disrespect. People try to explain more, clarify intentions, show consistency, hoping to restore fairness. This deepens the problem. Each explanation reduces mystery. Each clarification strengthens anticipation. Each emotional display supplies data. Control becomes easier, and value continues to drop. To be respected, one must interrupt anticipation. This does not require deception or cruelty. It requires selectivity. Silence where explanation is expected. Delay where reaction is assumed. Withdrawal where tolerance is taken for granted. When the mind can no longer run you in advance, it must engage with you directly. And in that engagement, control loosens and value begins to re-emerge. Moral transparency is often praised as a sign of integrity, yet in social reality it functions as exposure. When your values are openly declared, your emotional reaction consistent, and your ethical limits clearly defined, others gain a detailed map of your inner structure. This map is not used to honor you. It is used to navigate around you. Human beings do not admire what they can maneuver with ease. They adapt to it, exploit it, and eventually disregard it. Consistency creates comfort, and comfort invites testing. When people know exactly what you stand for, they also know what you will tolerate in the name of those principles. Your morality becomes predictable, and predictability turns ethics into leverage. Others learn how to pressure you by appealing to your values, how to guilt you by invoking your standards, and how to extract compliance by framing their demands as morally justified. Emotional consistency works the same way. When your reactions are stable and visible, others stop responding to your emotions as signals and start treating them as background conditions. Your frustration becomes noise. Your disappointment becomes routine. Your kindness becomes expected. Emotional expression without consequence loses its authority. It informs others of your state without altering their behavior. Manipulation thrives where reactions are known and consequences are absent. People do not manipulate those who are unreadable. They manipulate those who are reliable. When your empathy is consistent, it becomes a tool. When your patience is guaranteed, it becomes a resource others feel entitled to consume. When your forgiveness is predictable, wrongdoing loses risk. There is a silent assumption embedded in human interaction that people who explain themselves are seeking approval. Whether or not this is true, the perception shapes behavior. Moral transparency often comes with justification. Justification signals vulnerability. It suggests that your position depends on being understood rather than enforced. Others sense this and push, not out of malice, but curiosity and opportunity. Admiration requires distance. It requires a sense that another person exists beyond immediate access. When your internal world is fully available, there is nothing left to imagine, and imagination is essential for respect. People admire what they cannot fully possess or comprehend. Transparency eliminates this gap and replaces it with familiarity, which quickly mutates into entitlement. Moral individuals often believe that being clear about their principles will inspire others to reciprocate. Instead, it teaches others how to manipulate those principles. They learn which arguments will soften you, which narratives will trigger your compassion, which moral frames will override your boundaries. Over time, your ethics are no longer a shield but a handle. Emotional consistency also creates a dangerous illusion of safety. Others feel safe expressing disrespect because they know your response will be measured and contained. Your anger will not escalate. Your withdrawal will not last. Your consequences will be symbolic rather than real. This safety emboldens behavior that would never surface around someone whose reactions are uncertain. Manipulation does not always involve conscious deceit. Often it is simply adjustment. People adjust their behavior to extract maximum benefit with minimum cost. When your moral reactions are predictable, the cost is low. When your emotional patterns are stable, the benefit is reliable. Over time, this adjustment becomes normalized, and disrespect appears not as an act, but as a habit. The paradox is that those who are morally rigid but externally restrained often command more respect than those who openly display virtue. Their values are felt through action, not explained through words. Their boundaries are experienced, not negotiated. Their silence forces others to infer limits rather than test them openly. Emotional opacity does not mean emotional absence. It means emotional control. It means choosing when to reveal and when to withhold. It means allowing others to wonder rather than reassuring them constantly. When people are unsure how much they have disappointed you, they reflect. When they are unsure how far they can go, they hesitate. Admiration fades when everything is accessible. Manipulation begins when everything is usable. Moral transparency and emotional consistency, when unguarded, transform integrity into predictability and predictability into vulnerability, creating a condition where others no longer look up to you, but look through you, assessing what can be taken, what can be bent, and what can be crossed without consequence. Power does not announce itself through force or noise. It emerges quietly through absence, restraint, and uncertainty. When others cannot immediately determine your intentions, reactions, or limits, a psychological distance forms. This distance is not coldness, it is gravity. It pulls attention toward you without demanding it. Uncertainty disrupts the mental shortcuts people rely on to simplify others, and in that disruption, power takes shape. Unpredictability does not mean randomness. Randomness creates chaos, and chaos destroys credibility. True unpredictability is disciplined. It is a refusal to react on command. It is the ability to delay response even when emotion urges expression. It is a capacity to act in ways that are consistent internally but not obvious externally. This distinction matters because power depends on self-command, not confusion. Psychological distance is a space where others stop assuming and start observing. When people cannot anticipate you, they monitor you more closely. They listen more carefully. They weigh their words before speaking. This shift changes the dynamic entirely. Instead of you adjusting to the social environment, the environment begins adjusting to you. Distance reverses a flow of psychological effort. Uncertainty also restores consequence. When your reactions are not guaranteed, actions regain risk. People think twice before overstepping because they cannot calculate the outcome. They do not know whether silence means indifference, disappointment, or a future response that has not yet arrived. This ambiguity creates restraint, and restraint is often mistaken for respect, when in reality it is a condition that allows respect to exist. Predictable people collapse distance by over-communicating. They explain motives, clarify feelings, justify decisions. In doing so, they bring others too close too quickly. Power, however, requires selective access. Not everyone deserves to know your reasons. Not every challenge deserves a response. Silence, when chosen deliberately, signals self-sufficiency. It communicates that your actions are guided by internal standards rather than external validation. Unpredictability also disrupts social dominance patterns. Many forms of disrespect rely on rehearsed behavior. People test boundaries with jokes, interruptions, subtle dismissals, expecting familiar reactions. When those reactions do not arrive, the pattern breaks. The absence of the expected response creates discomfort. That discomfort forces reevaluation. Suddenly, The old strategy no longer works. Psychological distance does not isolate, it filters. Those who respect boundaries remain. Those who relied on access withdraw. This separation is not a loss but a refinement. Power is rarely compatible with universal closeness. It thrives in selective engagement, where presence is intentional rather than constant. Uncertainty also protects inner stability. When you no longer feel compelled to react immediately, you regain control over your emotional economy. You stop spending energy where it yields no return. This conservation strengthens presence. People sense when someone is not easily moved. They may not articulate it, but they respond to it. The restoration of distance changes how others remember you. Instead of recalling predictable reactions, they recall moments of pause, silence, and unexpected restraint. These moments linger. The mind fills gaps more vividly than it remembers explanations. What is left unsaid often carries more weight than what is declared. Power matures when you accept being misunderstood temporarily rather than disrespected permanently. Unpredictability invites misinterpretation, but it also commands attention. Over time, attention reshapes perception. Others begin to see you not as someone to be managed, but as someone to be considered. The greatest mistake is to confuse unpredictability with hostility. True uncertainty is calm. It is neutral. It does not seek to intimidate. It simply refuses to be fully accessible. This refusal is not aggression. It is autonomy expressed quietly. When psychological distance is restored, respect follows naturally. People adjust their behavior not because they fear you, but because they cannot place you into a category that allows casual treatment. You are no longer an open book. You are a presence that must be engaged with carefully, a variable that cannot be controlled through anticipation, a force defined not by reaction but by choice.